my friends, and welcome to my channel. My name is Carla. It's the 30th of January and it's time for another floss tube update. Well, at least it's time to show you my progress that I have made in January this year. So I'm going to record this video with a few little different chapters so that you can sort of skip to whatever you're interested. I'm going to add some little information about books that I've read this month, and also something that I finished with my knitting project. So yeah, I think it's nice that I can add an extra couple of bits into the video just to lengthen it that little bit for those of you that like slightly longer videos. I've had a really good stitching month. I feel like I've been more invigorated with my stitching. I don't know exactly what happened. I got into a little bit of slump towards the end of last year, and January I kind of sort of pepped up a bit, and I seem to be, I've just had a really good stitching month. I've done a lot of actual progress. I think I've done really well, kept up with the stitch along that we have on the Heaven and Earth Designs website. So let's get started and let me show you how I've done this month. I'm here with my cup of tea in my husband's mug, as you do, and I've got the house to myself at the moment, which is great. My son is at school, my husband is at work. Normally he works from home, so it's actually a good opportunity to record when he's not around, because I don't really like doing videos when there's other people in the house. It kind of distracts me knowing that they could be hearing what I'm saying, or it's nice when you've got all the house to yourself and you can just do it your own way. So there's exciting stuff going on with my stitching. Well, more with my plans, I think, and I'm going to get to the plans at the end of the video. So I'm going to start with my first section of showing you the cross stitching and what it is that I have done this month. So I have been working on 5 of my projects in January. The first 2 projects that I have goals for, and I'm going to talk about those goals and even how many stitches I got, because I've actually been able to keep up with the spreadsheet with my stitches. That's how organized I've been this month, which is very unusual for me because A, I'm not a planner, and B, I don't record stitches that I've done, or I don't really think about them that much. So it's a great thing that I've actually got around to doing that. Sorry, I just got distracted there because the cat just came flying into the room and I thought I'd closed the door. Are you coming to say hello before I pick up my cross stitch patterns? Hello. Yeah, you never really do say hello, do you, little flump? Come say hello. Oh, she's such a cuddly thing, but she doesn't really like being on my lap unless she wants to be on my lap. My cat just distracted me there, so I've had to go and give her a few cuddles just to keep her happy for a little while. Hopefully she won't be too pesky. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so as I was saying, my first 2 projects have had some really strict goals because I want to get them finished in 2024. And I mean completely finished, FFO. And that's the Astrology Cat, which is the Heaven and Earth Design stitch along, and also my Home for the Holidays by Thomas Kincaid. And I'm really doing well, and I'm on track to finish those 2 this year, which is going to leave me a chance to pick a new start in January of next year, but we'll talk about that a bit later. So first of all, let's see what progress I've got with the ones I did this month. I started off with my Heaven and Earth Designs Riverwalk Charm, which I will put up on the screen for you to see what the actual chart looks like. I'm sure many of you that follow my progress are very aware of what this chart looks like. I've seen somebody else working on this chart, and I think they're doing a mini version, or there's a couple of people doing a mini version. I haven't seen anybody else doing the large format, which is what I have. It's not supersized, it's a large format. And I started it in 2020, I think very early 2020. I think there was quite a few months in a row where I hadn't touched it at all possibly most of 2020, and then I picked it up again at the end of the year and started like seriously stitching on it. So how many stitches did I get on this one? Well, my goal for this one was to do 3,000 stitches a month, or 3,000 stitches in January, so that I could get to 50%. The ultimate goal is to get to 50% on this one by the end of this year. So I'll be halfway through. And I managed to achieve, actually I didn't get to the 3,000, I got just under 2,917, but we're still not into February, so maybe later I can just, you know, do those extra few stitches, hit the 3,000, and then I will be done for this month with my goal completed. So the progress I have made on this one, and I have it in my Q-snap at the moment, all sort of nicely folded up, is all literally this entire bottom section, just sort of where the bottom part of the tree trunk is all new progress. So I've started working onto this red umbrella, coming down to this umbrella. I'd also finished, the top of this bicycle here. So that's really coming along. I love the muted greens and the blends of greens and browns in this, and the reds just really appeal to me. It's such a pretty landscape. Sometimes I think it looks a bit French, although it's supposed to be a place in Texas, San Antonio, Texas. And I'm just really happy with my progress that I've made here. I'm sort of working down in blocks again. I started parking a bit more. I've got back into my parking. Yeah, I sort of gone off my parking for a little while, but now I'm sort of back into it. I just keep changing like the weather. I can't help it. So I'm happy with my progress on this. This one is to get a 50% by the end of this year, and I'll be happy with that. That's the goal, and I will be working on this one in 2025. My cat is scratching my piano now, which isn't ideal. I'll just go and sort her out. So many distractions already. How many of you have cats that drive you nuts? Probably many of you. Okay, so my next one that I want to show you is the Heaven and Earth Designs Stitch Along piece that I started in January of this year. I'm all frazzled now because my cat's just driven me a bit crazy. I just need to take a drink. This is about my third take this morning. So we're not doing great. This is called Astrology Cat, and my goal for this one was to get 6,000 stitches in a month, or approximately 200 a day, and I have gone completely past that, and I have done 8,141 stitches. I completed the entire first page, and I'm moving on to page 2, which is here. These couple of squares are the second page, and I'm very, very happy with progress. It's coming out really nice. I love the detail in the little planet, or the bottom of the large planet has got some great detail. This one I'm doing 1/1 full cross with a single strand. Sometimes I'm wishing that I had done this one with 10 stitch and 2 strands, because I'm really into my 10 stitch at the moment, and it does go a little bit faster, although I'm not really worried too much. It is what it is. I started it this way. I'm quite happy with my 22 count. I think the coverage is nice. Once you've got it up, you're not going to see the background really. Looks good enough to me. So that's what I've got done on this one. So I'm happy. I've gone way past the goal that I set for this one. So I'm very happy with that. Yeah, 8,141 stitches done, and just moving across to this next page. So I'm aiming for a finish of this one at the end of this year, although if I just get the 4 full pages done, at least that would be sufficient. But I'd rather get this one finished because I'm planning a new start in January of next year, and I'd rather not have this one lingering on and on going into 2025. Okay, is there anything else I didn't tell you about that one? I don't think so. There's not much else to say about it, really. You can't join it now. It's the cut-off date was the end of last year. So I know a lot of people are doing it, and if you're interested in seeing people's progress, there is a Facebook group called haed 2024, something like that. And everybody's posting their progress on there. So yeah, it's really good. My next one is the other focus piece that I was talking about. It's called Home for the Holidays by Thomas Kincaid. I love the colours in this one. I love sometimes it looks a bit purpley, sometimes it looks a bit blue, depends on which way the light is shining on it. I'm working on this one in 2/1 10 stitch, and again, I'm using 25 count. I started this one early last year, and it's a mini. And here is my progress. I have it on my Q-snap, on my smaller Q-snap, because I wasn't able to work on my larger Q-snap, and it was more of a hassle to get it onto my frame. So I gone to a slightly smaller Q-snap than the bigger one. So my progress here has been really good. What I've got done is, so guys, all this square on this end here is all I got left to do to finish this chart. So my progress, I've come all the way down, halfway down the roof, or nearly to the bottom of the roof. And I've also done, you'll see here, I can't see what I'm doing. There's a snowman has appeared, lucky little snowman, and I'd finished the boy last time, but I hadn't done this bit with the sledge. So I've done the snowman. I've come all the way down from about up here down to here. I've done the bottom of this house. How can I move this aside? Yeah. There goes one of my needles flying. I just love the colours. They're just sweet. It's a nice dusky piece, and I think this one may go above my piano at Christmas because it's pretty sweet. Yeah, so that's a whole load of progress. Let me tell you how much progress I've made on this one. So for this one, again, my goal was to do 3,000 stitches a month, which will actually get me a finish by summer this year. There's only about 15,000 stitches left to do in this section. And I've completed 5,275. I can't believe I've done that much. So the goal was 3,000. I've done 5,200. I think I'm going to finish this before the summer, the rate I'm going. But that's great because I wanted to get this as a finish. So the sooner I finish, the better. I wanted to get the other one, the Riverwalk Charm, to 50%, and I'm rolling ahead with that one. So these are the two that are the most important to me this year at the moment. And I'm really pleased with this progress. So it's going really great. If I didn't mention it again, I'm doing 2 strands tent on this one, which I'm pretty happy with. And yeah, it's going great. I can't believe how much stitching I've done. It sounds like I haven't done anything at all except stitch. Did I sleep? Did I eat? I'm pretty sure I did. Or I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. But it feels like crazy when I look at it that I've even been able to actually do that much stitching. Because I've done loads of other stuff as well. So I just must be pretty prolific this year for some reason. Okay, let's look at the next one that I've worked on. Now this is an interesting one that I've worked on, that I picked up, which I hadn't intended to work on it at the moment. It was a sleeping sort of a sleeping project because I've been working on it since 2019 and I so needed a break from it. But I think I was on such a roll with most of with the two that I've just mentioned, that I wanted to pick this one out for variety, because sometimes you do get a little bit tired looking at the same image and you want a little bit of a break. So I thought, well, let's go and find this one and bring her out and give her a few stitches, because she is still in the picture, so to speak. She's not a UFO. And the chart I'm talking about is called Sad Fairy, another Heaven and Earth design. The artist is Elena Lazareva. I haven't been telling you the artist, have I? Missing out all sorts of information here. But anyway, they're all Heaven and Earth designs, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to. I've got all the names of them below in the description box. So I've dug her out of my cupboards and I've managed to get, what have I written down here? 2,917 stitches. So without even intending to stitch on her, she came out of the bag and I stitched on her. And I did a lot of stitches on her. So it just goes to show that even for the best well-laid plans, there are still variations. You will still jump to something that you hadn't planned, or something will change, because I think for a lot of us, that's quite natural for us to skip a few of our plans and go on to things that we actually want to do on a whim, rather than say that we have to do. And here is my progress with her. So she is on the larger Q-snap size, and I've been doing all sorts of weird and wonderful directions with her. So I was doing rows, well, not rows, but just like blocks here, and then a bit of a diagonal. Then I decided I don't want to do diagonal anymore, so I started doing some block here. This is the edge of the page, probably. Yeah, that's the edge of that page. And I don't actually remember which way I'm going now with this one, because I think I did something up here and then I came down to here and I did this, which I think is a leaf. I'm not quite sure what that blob is there. I think it might be a leaf. But anyway, in all, I'm glad I did bring her out, because I do love this one. And even though she hasn't been calling to me for ages, I think the last time I worked on her was September last year, not too long ago. But she hasn't been out since September last year, and I thought, oh, come on, let's just do a few stitches, just to give me a change from doing the sal or whatever it was. And I'm happy I did, because I actually think I got all this section added. It's not a lot, but it's something, and it does count towards the final result. So she's going to come into my plans next year, I think. I'm going to give her some love next year. I think she's been sleeping long enough. So that's Sad Fairy. I love the colours in this one. She matches really nice with my grey couch here, I think. Yeah. So that is also being done on, this is DMC 25 count. It's the one that had the red grid. I think I've seen quite a number of you using that red grid, which I washed out because I got a stain on it, and I washed it out, and I wasn't really caring for the 20 by 20 grid, so I just washed it, and it left this really nice sort of ecru colour. Yeah, washing actually made it slightly less stiff, but it didn't make it more difficult to stitch. There she is, Sad Fairy. She came back from the dead. And the last one that I worked on in January is called Fairy Whispers. I started this chart here's a picture of Fairy Whispers. I can't remember the artist's name now off the top of my head. I started Fairy Whispers a few months ago, and I just loved the colours in this one. I just love the colours in this one. However, for some reason, I haven't been liking working on this one with the 1/1 strand. I've been thinking I wish I had started it with my 2 strands on 25 count. I don't know why. I just feel like I would have been happier that way. Maybe because it's a bigger chart, and when I do the slightly bigger ones, I almost wish that I did them in tent, because A, it goes a little bit quicker, B, I like the process of stitching tent a little bit more. So I really don't know why I started on 1/1. I can't even remember what was going on in my head at the time. But anyway, here is my progress on this one. And yeah, it's a little bit here and there and everywhere. So we've got these lovely colours over here. So I think I worked a little bit down here and a little bit over here. And there isn't much to be seen because that's the horse or the unicorn. And here is the beginning of the forest. So it's a 1 strand on 22 count. It's the same as I'm doing on my astrology cat. Same fabric, same hardanger, and same method. Now, I'm not sure about this one. I'll talk about this one in my plans. So at the moment, I'm not working on it now. What did I do? Let's have a look. I only did 600 stitches on this one this month. It's not a huge amount. I've done more on the others. But obviously the astrology cat and home for the holidays has taken precedence. And I have to have a think about this one because I don't really know what exactly I'm going to do. So I'll talk about that in my plans in a moment. But I think that is all my projects that I have worked on for January. And as I said, it's been a great stitching month. I'm really pleased with the progress that I've got on them. Not so much pleased with Fairy Whispers, but hey, you can only do so much, right? You can't kill yourself. So I'm happy that I got the goals met that I had set for myself. And I also managed to get a finish with some of my other things, other hobbies that I do, which I'm going to talk about now. So if you don't want to hear about books or knitting, you can skip to the end where I talk about my plans for my cross stitching, or you can stay with me and we'll talk about the books I've read and the blanket I knitted. Okay, so apart from stitching, I managed to catch up with some of my knitting, which is something that I've always loved. I've loved knitting and crochet for many years. It's sort of taken a back seat since I started doing cross stitch, but hey, why wouldn't it? I mean, who doesn't love cross stitch? And I started working on, I think it was August last year, I picked up this pattern because a friend of mine who lives here in Scotland is due to have a baby girl and I wanted to knit something for her baby. So I picked up this kit. And I found it in a store called John Lewis, which is like a large store here, super store, probably something like Joann's or something that you'd get in the US. And it's just this lovely kit. So you've got this lovely wool and zigzag pattern. So the pattern comes in the little card here. And it comes with the wool. It doesn't come with the needles. You have to have your own needles. I've got my own circular needles. So I started that in August and I just literally finished it last night, believe it or not, just in time. So I thought, well, if I finished it, I may as well show it to you. So here it is. Whoops, I can't see what I'm showing you. And it's lovely because it's kind of weighty. So it doesn't feel like a thin blanket. It's sort of got a nice weight to it. And I think it's really pretty. Now, when I started making this, she didn't know whether she was having a boy or a girl. So I just went safe with some lovely sort of neutral colour. Because I don't really know, if people have, what sort of colour preferences people have. So I didn't want to go into the blues and the pinks and all that. So I thought, well, let's just go with this lovely colour, which is quite pretty. It's like a mint grey and white. So that's what I got finished. And it wasn't hard to knit at all, although there was a couple of tricky rows with a lot of yarn overs, and if you know what they are, and increases and decreases. And I find that when I'm doing increases and decreases, I better not be listening to an audible book or watching TV or anything, because I just lose count. I have to be completely focused on the knitting if I'm doing increases and stuff like that, unless it's like at the beginning or the end of the row where it, you can't exactly get lost in the count. But I'm pretty happy with that, and I hope she likes it whenever I'm able to give it to her, because I think she's going to be due very soon, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to meet up. So I'm very happy with that. That's really all I've got as a finish for my knitting projects. I've got a whole ton of knitting projects in my cupboard that I'm slowly sort of fishing out every so often and doing a little bit of knitting here and there, just as and when I feel like it. That's just the way I roll, really. Okay, so that's it for my little knitting section. Let's go on to books that I have read and finished in January. Okay, so I have read 2 books in January. One of them is actually an audio book, which I listen to whilst I'm stitching. And the other one is a hardback book. And we'll go with the first one. So this book that I have finished is called Young Queens. And it's quite a hefty one, actually. It's right up my street because I love anything to do with history, particularly Tudor history, which is sort of European, UK, 16th century history. And this book has been a real joy to read, actually. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. It was whether it was going to be too sort of in-depth, or if it was going to be more of an emotional book, more easy to relate to, rather than a literary book. I read this in a month and really enjoyed it. So it's about 3 queens. Mary, Queen of Scots, who we know was a Queen of Scotland. It's about Catherine de Medici, who was a Queen Consort of France, and it's about her daughter Elizabeth de Valois. Am I saying that right? Valois. She is Catherine de Medici's daughter, and she married King Philip of Spain. So they were all queens, which is what binds them together, connects them. And there's a story about how they sort of relate to each other, how their lives intertwine. I'm not going to give you the whole plot story, because you can actually pick up biographies of each of these women and read them separately. But what I liked about this book is that they all sort of combine together, and the author tells you about Mary's sort of relationship with Elizabeth, Mary's relationship with Catherine de Medici, Catherine's relationship with her daughter. So there's all this sort of intertwining relationships that she talks about. And also it does give you a little bit of the history of these 3 women, how they lived in their palaces, and how they died, obviously. So yeah, I recommend that if you like to read about kings and queens. And it's actually quite sad, because the way people died in those days, they didn't have like painkillers even that we have today. So you have to feel sorry for them. They must have gone through a lot of trauma, more especially in childbirth. Elizabeth de Valois, I think is this one here, she died in childbirth, and in a lot of pain. And they seemed to bear it very well. In those days they were very religious, very pious, and they used to put all their trust in God, and everything was God's will. So yeah, interesting book. Not going to say much more about that one, but I enjoyed it. And I've got loads of other books like this of a historical nature, and it just never gets repetitive for me. I never get tired of reading about these people. Every time I read about them, it just brings them a little bit more alive, and it's a nice way to honour their memory as well, I guess. So the second book that I read is called The Housemaid, and I'll put a picture up here because, as I said, it's on an Audible application, so I just listen to it on my headphones. This book was interesting because it's not the genre that I particularly ever read. It's a sort of psychological thriller. And I'm usually quite wary of those because I never really know whether, some of them can be great, others can be terrible. But this one was actually pretty good. It was actually pretty good. I can recommend this one as a good read. It tells just briefly, it's a story about a lady, a married woman, who is looking for a housekeeper for herself and her daughter. And immediately as you get into the book, you realise that there's something not quite right with this lady. She treats her housekeeper terribly. She's got a very strange relationship with her husband. And the housekeeper that comes in has got her own sort of problematic issues. She spent a good many years in prison and she didn't want that to be found out. So she was holding this big secret, and she got this job as a housekeeper and she was trying her best to be the best housekeeper. But the lady who employed her was pretty nasty to her, and it was just like, what's going on here? Why is this one so nasty? Why is the other one so secretive? So there's a lot of building up of what's going on. And the other thing that's nice about it is it has this parallel narrative between the employer and the housekeeper. So you get to see both sides of their story. And I find that interesting because it adds a new perspective to the story. So yeah, it's one of those, you get to the end and you think, oh my God, is that really what happened? You get to find out why the wife was so awful, and you even get to pity her near the end. But I'm not going to say any more than that because it'll just give you the ins and outs of the story, which is what I don't want to do. But it was actually a good read, and I think there might be a second book in, I'm not sure if it's a series of the same people or whether it's I could read this as a standalone book and I don't need to go on to read another. I did enjoy it, but I'm not compelled to read, I think it's called The Maid, or there's a second book in the series. But anyway, I enjoyed that one for what it was. Rarely do I pick up this kind of book, so I'm glad that when I did, it was okay for me. So yeah, check it out if you have the application to get it on Audible, or you can get this one on Kindle, most likely, or on paperback. So I think that's everything that I need to tell you. I've gone through my projects. I don't think there's anything else I have to tell you apart from my plans. So we'll talk about my plans for 2025. So you're probably thinking, why are you thinking about 2025 when we've only just started 2024? Good question. I have no idea. But like I said, sometimes it's nice to think ahead and plan things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stick to those plans or that we even have to worry about them. But it's nice just to think, well, what can I do in the future? What would I like to do? It's more of a wishful thinking than a plan for me. And I know that when I actually get to the end of this year, I don't know where I'm going to be in my headspace, whether I'm going to have a completely different idea than I do now, possibly. But yeah, it's nice to just think ahead a little bit and plan if you want to. There's no harm in doing that. So having said that, what I've been looking at recently is the Happy Village chart that came out as a new release, and I've just fallen in love with that one. I love the art style. It just looks like a place where I would like to live. I would like to be up there in one of those little windows in those little houses, playing my piano, drinking my coffee, sitting by a window, watching those little boats go by on the lake, wondering about who's inside those boats. I want to be in that picture. So I look at it and I think it's so serene, so tranquil. I think there's a calmness and a tranquility about that scene that appeals to me. It just looks like a perfect place to live, considering that we're living in such a crazy world at the moment, let me say, and absolutely awful things going on everywhere. It's nice to look at something like this and think, what a beautiful way to live. Look at that, you know, it's just such a beautiful picture. But apart from that, so I'm thinking, well, you know, I would actually like to stitch this, but do I have the guts to stitch this? Because sometimes I think, oh, I couldn't do another big one. But then I was thinking, if this particular chart in a smaller version would lose a lot of detail, I think it really would. And I think I probably, to get the best out of it, I wouldn't go smaller than what it is. It's something like 700 by 450 stitches, which is big. It's not super sized, but it's still a good chunk. It's something like 350,000 stitches, more or less. So we're talking another 5 years, right? We're talking another 5 years or so. But even thinking that, it still keeps drawing me in. It just keeps drawing me in. So I'm thinking, okay, so let's compromise here. Let's do a compromise. If I get to finish the 2 that I'm intending to finish this year, then I can start that one afterwards. I think that's a good compromise. Rather than starting it now or rushing towards doing it now or anytime soon, let's just wait till I finish 2, get them out of the bag, and then I can think about starting that one. And then, furthering my plan, I'm thinking, what if I have a focus piece like Happy Village for a month, and I pick out one of the other ones, I don't know, maybe Sad Fairy, or maybe that one's going to be finished. Or what else have I got here? Riverwalk Charm. So I could pick out, do Happy Village plus 1 every month. Then I'm constantly getting progress on the other ones, and I'm working happily on Happy Village, which makes me happy. That's 3 happies in a row. So that's kind of what's going through my head at the moment. That could change. These thoughts could change, these plans could change. Like I said, don't set my plans in gold, because I never know from one day to the next whether I'm, you know, really gonna go for it or not. But I'm liking that idea at the moment. So I'm just gonna go with that for the moment. I think that might be a good idea. Because I feel like if I don't start something, then I feel like kind of like the one that's left out, because there's so much excitement about starting things, and especially in a new year. A new year is the best time, I think, to start something. If you're going to start anything, New Year is a great time. And I'm excited. Like I say, I just love the chart. What more can I say? I just love the chart. So yeah. There's no point trying to dissuade myself or persuade myself any further. The best thing I can do is just go with the flow and do whatever it is that's making me happy at the time. And if it doesn't make me happy anymore, then I know I can change it. But there's no point in trying to resist what doesn't want to be resisted. Is that the best way to put it? I think you probably know what I mean. Because your desires will get the better of you in the end. And when it comes to cross stitch, your desires are not hurting anyone. So it is not something that there is anything too much to worry about, other than your time constraints and how it's fitting into your life. I mean, that's the only consideration really that has to be there. So that's the plan thing explained. And yeah, so I can say in conclusion to this video that I've had a very good stitching month. I've enjoyed working on all my pieces. I'm happy with my plans going forward. I'm enjoying doing the stitch with me's on my stitch along piece, and I hope that some of you are enjoying that as well. I hadn't done stitch with me for ages, so it was nice to get back into that. I want to do a couple of more stitch with me's with some of the other pieces, like Riverwalk Charm, maybe do a stitch with me of this one, or maybe in the run up to the finish of Home for the Holidays, I would like to do maybe a stitch with me when I just get to the last 1,000 stitches. That might be interesting. So we can see how that goes. So I think that is everything. I don't think I've left anything out. If I've left anything out or you have any questions, you can ask me. I have an email address at the bottom. I don't check it that often, but I do every so often, and or just simply ask me in the comments. So yeah, guys, that's it. It's been an exciting month, and I think that going forward my stitching will be just as nice. And thank goodness we're coming into the spring, so we're going to have a bit more nicer weather. I'll be going out a little bit more often, but I don't think that's going to make a huge difference to my stitching. I think I'm still going to get a good bit done. Looking forward to achieving my February goals, and obviously looking forward to achieving a haed finish again this year, because they come so few and far between that when you do get haed finished, it's a real celebration. I think you know what I mean. So with that, my friends, I have to leave you for now and say thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting me so much, and all the lovely messages and kind support that you give me in my videos and outside of my videos. And until I come back again, I wish you well. I hope you have a lovely rest of the week and a great weekend. So I'll see you soon. Bye.